Welcome to Inspire, the Angel Flores podcast, where you'll be inspired, equipped, and entertained. This podcast is sponsored by Mosaic Church, a church for people who don't really like church. To learn more about Mosaic, please visit our website at greeleymosaic.com.
All right, Tony, thank you for coming on. Thanks for agreeing to do this. We've been friends for 20-some years, 25 years maybe. So
our kids were little.
Yeah, they were born. I mean, I remember when Niall was born. You remember when Josiah was born?
Yeah.
He's 25.
I was 26.
We're not young men.
No, I don't feel like a young man.
That's what I'm hearing. All right, man. So let's start out with thank you for coming on, first of all. Let's hear your story a little bit. Born and raised, that kind of stuff.
Born and raised here in Greeley. When I was a kid, we moved around a little bit because my dad was a pastor.
Uh-huh.
But I really grew up here in Greeley.
All right. Where'd you go to school?
In high school, I went to Greeley Central.
Okay.
Graduated in 1983, a long time ago.
Okay. Greeley Central Wildcats.
Yeah.
All right. And then after that, what? I know you played football in high school.
Yeah. I played my freshman year of college. I played football in college. I was on scholarship out to a small school out in Kansas, Bethany College.
Okay.
I went there my freshman year, and that was cool. Pretty good experience. Like, I came back home for the summer, and my mom was just really struggling financially. So I started working, and I just never went back.
Was the plan to work just for the summer and go back?
Yes.
But didn't happen.
No.
How'd they find you, or how did you find them, or?
College I went to? I don't know how they found me. I think that they just looked around at, because I made the all-conference team.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure they pulled that information.
That gets you on the radars, yeah.
Yeah.
What position?
I played left tackle in high school, but in college I played left guard.
Okay. And what was the name of the school?
Bethany College.
Oh, Bethany. Home of the fighting, what?
The Swedes. I like real Swedes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I fit right in.
Must have been your Swedish heritage.
Yeah.
Swedish.
I was one up on everybody because of
your ancestry.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then, so where'd you go to work?
When I first came back, I started working for a local guy, Pete Duran, Dumar Contractors. And I don't know what happened. Something happened with the bonding, and we lost the job that we were on, and he let everybody off. So I went from making pretty good money at that time. I remember I was a kid back then making $12.75 an hour. That was pretty good money for way back then.
Yeah. How old were you at that point?
19.
Oh, yeah.
So I went from making that. So I went to work with my brother at the Flatiron Companies. I went from making $12.75 to $5. Yeah.
That'll dip the morale a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what were you doing? It was concrete flat work? Was it?
Curb and gutter.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and then the story goes on. So then you're single.
Yeah.
Working your way up.
Yeah.
And then you met your wife.
Yeah. When I met her, the company I worked for got bought out at some point. And then I worked there a few years. I worked 5 more years there. I just thought, this isn't going anywhere. So I jumped ship, went to another company. And that was a pretty good job. And that's kind of when I met Isabel, and everything happened, and we got married. She had a family already, or she had kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married. And we had at the time, she had her tubes tied. So we had to have a reversal done.
How many kids did she have?
At that point, she had 5 kids. So then when
you went from bachelor
to 5 kids
to single.
Well, not all 5 lived with us, though. Because the 3 older ones kind of went their own way.
They were already grown and more or less.
Yeah. And not so much grown, but just like, I don't know, it was more like just rebellion. They just didn't want to live under a roof where there was rules, So they opted to leave. And the 2 younger ones, stepkids, Vanessa and Jacob, I think of them as my kids,
How old were they when you guys got married? Yeah, put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I got to do the math real quick in my head. I want to say, let me see, Jacob, Vanessa born in 84. When we got married, Vanessa was 12, 13, and Jacob was like 11,
Oh, okay.
12. Yeah. They were little.
So from there on, you raised them. They're your dad to them. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And then, so she had her tubes tied.
Right.
So you guys had to
have that reversal of a tubal ligation, I think they call it.
Okay.
So we had that done. And they told us, I mean, chances are that it's 50-50. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Thankfully it did.
Did they say, if it doesn't work, we'll give you your money back?
Oh, no.
They're like, for us, it's 100. Like, it's going to work for us.
At $10,000, yeah.
Yeah, that was 10,000 a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
So then you guys had Niall.
Yeah.
And now he's 26.
Right.
So then, I know a lot of your story. So Niall was about 8, and then Isabel started getting sick.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, he was actually 7 when she started getting sick. We found out on the 2nd of June because, it's kind of weird because the doctor actually came to the house because they did a biopsy on that mass she had in her lung. They assumed it was some kind of pneumonia. They
so she's just feeling
just a cough that wouldn't go away. So they did the biopsy. Doctor says, I'd like to come to your house and talk to you guys about it. So we're like, okay, maybe they're going to do some treatment. Never thinking that. I heard of cancer. I just never knew anybody who had it. Like I didn't know anybody personally that battled that.
Yeah.
Or dealt with it at all. So when he came
and this was in
2004.
It could just be me, could just be my circle, could be the fact that I pastor a church, but it feels like I know a lot of people now. So I wonder if it's, what do you think? Do you think it's more common, or do you think?
Yeah, it seems like
it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like more and more people are dealing with it. So anyway, so the doctor came to your house. That's rare.
Yeah, exactly. So we just thought he was going to lay out some kind of treatment plan or something for whatever she had. And when he dropped that bomb, I felt like...
What did he say?
He just said, test came back positive for lung cancer. Yeah.
How old was Isabel at this time?
48.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Never smoked?
No. I mean, where she was pretty healthy, really. I mean...
She was
in good shape. She was slim and nothing like that. And, sitting there and I'm thinking, gosh, this doesn't feel real. Like, I feel like I'm in a movie almost. Like, how could this be happening?
Right.
So then,
and there's a feeling too of, how is this my life? Because you hear about other people, but then when it's you, there's this almost like that movie camera deal where it zooms in.
Yeah, like, exactly. That's exactly how you feel.
This is really happening right now. Yeah. And I imagine as a father and a husband, as a man, you gotta be strong and say, okay, I gotta take charge here, because she's probably tail spinning. And how did she deal with all that? How did she take it?
Pretty good actually. Like, she didn't break down a whole lot. Like, I didn't see it get the best of her very often, but I know it did. Like, sometimes she would just crack.
What was the suggested treatment, or?
They started chemotherapy, and she did a few rounds of that, and I think she just got to the point where it beat her up so bad, she just said, "I don't want to do this anymore." And she was going in. She had 3 stints in the hospital. We took her in the emergency room. I mean, in the middle of all this, I had a contract with the city of Loveland, and it was a CDOT project. And they were coming in, overlaying part of a highway, and we were just under the gun bad. And I would have to run home, and she'd have anxiety attacks, And I understand.
Yeah.
And I had to run back to work, it was just going nuts.
So by this time you'd become a partner in your own company.
Right.
And so now you're not just an employee, but you have more responsibility.
Now I have skin in the game, and there's $2,500 a day liquidated damages looking us right in the face,
If you don't get it done.
Right. So there's that. And then it was like just the perfect storm. Right? So then, we found out on the 2nd of June, and by the 28th of August, she was gone. Not even 3 months,
Jeez.
escalated.
Yeah.
We're going to the hospital. I think one of the worst things I ever had to deal with her was one of the times she was in at this point, her lungs started getting full of fluid. So I'd literally have to hold onto her hands, and she'd be leaning over the table, kind of like I'm leaning now.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a guy with an ultrasound and a guy with a needle about that long.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sticking it in her back. And the guy with the ultrasound was guiding him. Okay, right there. And then they stick it into this bottle that had a suction built in, poke it in there, and it would suck all the fluid out. But she would just have to take the pain.
No painkillers, no.
Nothing.
But it was relief to get the fluid out.
She could breathe a little bit. And after, I don't know if that was really what did it for her, but after a few times of that, she just, I don't want to do this.
Mm. Yeah. Did you ever get, you were in the front row for sure. Did you ever get frustrated with her? Come on, you can keep fighting. Or did you ever feel like that? Or were you understood?
Well, a little bit I did, but then like when I saw like what she was going through, like how do you tell somebody that?
Yeah.
You don't know. You just don't know.
Talk a little bit, Tony, about your faith in Christ and how you came to Christ, and talk about that story. Because you're raised in a pastor's home.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that road, because I want to talk about how those moments converged.
Yeah. Like you just said, I grew up in a pastor's home. But, honestly, I don't really think even now, like I don't think I really completely understood the reality of this is the gospel till recently. Even though I lived through all that and I knew like inside of me, I just knew God was there the whole time. Like he never left. And I knew that. And I think that, I don't want to say I'm not sure if I was saved. I think I was.
Right.
But I just don't think I had like a complete grasp of it. Like, this is how that all really works.
Yeah.
But that whole thing, like how it tied everything together. Afterwards, I remember this is after she had passed. I was reading through the book of Job and I thought, I probably got something in common with this guy. Not as bad as him.
Right, yeah.
But to me, it's like, that's as bad.
Right. All you have to measure is your own experience. See, I don't know what it feels like to be someone else, but what you were going through sucked for sure. Yeah.
So I'm reading that, and you think at the end, because I'd read it before, just never paid much attention to it, I guess.
Right, yeah.
At the end, you think God's going to show up and be nice to this guy, and he just blasts him. And I thought, that's
so. So those of you that have never read this, the book of Job is about a man who's very wealthy. He's the wealthiest guy at the time.
He's the godliest guy at the time.
Yeah.
As well.
Some Bible scholars believe that Job actually occurred before the flood. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And so definitely loves God. And in the book, Satan comes and says, well, the only reason that he loves you is because he's rich and he's got, a beautiful family. If you take all that away, he's going to curse you. So God says, go ahead. And he loses his whole family, his kids, everybody in one day. He loses all his money. He ends up with boils all over his body.
Yeah.
Right. And his friends are like, you know what? You must have done something, Job. This is probably your fault. His wife says, just curse God and die already. And Job won't. He's like, though he slay me, yet I'll praise him. That's from the book of Job. Then towards the very end, Job starts kind of questioning God, and God kind of smacks him down a little bit. Where were you when I formed the foundations of the earth? And in other words, who do you think you are to question me? Which seems harsh.
Yeah.
This guy's just been through it.
Just let this guy.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed if they've never read it.
Yeah, that seems like, gosh, like you said, it just seems so harsh. But honestly, I found like comfort in that. Like, that's exactly right. God's in control. Like, no matter what, he's still the one that has the final say. He's sovereign.
Yeah.
I don't know why now I've listened to, I think I might have sent you that message. I listened to that guy, J.D. Greer's sermon on that that right there.
Yeah.
And, he puts it in these terms. He says that,
There are sometimes people that send my messages to people too. Anyway.
Yeah. He says, like God's power is so much greater than ours. And we understand that.
Right.
All you got to do is look around at the universe,
Right. Yeah.
Hubble telescope, they can't even number the stars.
Yeah.
God did all that with just his voice. He didn't even have to use his hands.
Yeah.
So just imagine that gap in power from him to us. So why can't we understand that maybe his gap in wisdom to ours is that much greater?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, We don't know why he does things, but he knows. He has a perfect plan. I remember, I think it was you. One time you told me when we were at the other church, someday you're going to look back on this on the other side of eternity and think, my God, that was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you know? And I just don't get it right now.
Right.
And maybe if he even tried to explain it, I'm not going to comprehend.
And we are still emotionally invested in a way that we can't be objective. You know what I mean? Because still, God, and maybe if God did explain to you, you would say, well, intellectually I get it, but that really hurt me. So I still don't get it. I'm upset or whatever.
It was that other guy. Oh, I can't understand why. Yeah.
But there is some, you're touching on something huge, and I hope people are grabbing it. There is some peace in recognizing God's in control.
Right.
And so I can't control everything. I'm not going to try. I'm going to stop trying. I'm surrendering, and then at the end of the day, there is peace in that. Although it feels, we love control, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We like to be in charge, and
that kind of peace doesn't mean that the situation is peaceful. There could be war going on around you, but there's still peace in that he gives you that calming that you just can't explain. Just like he says, you can't explain it.
Yeah.
How could he bring calm in the middle of that storm?
Yes.
Just like he was in the boat with the storm going on and he's sleeping.
Yeah.
That's the calm that he brings.
And you see in that story when Jesus does that, the disciples, they say, they yell at him, "Teacher, why are you sleeping?" Right?
Yeah.
They still don't get it. Yeah. Don't you care? That's what we do. We immediately attack God's character when he's not doing what we want. We do it too, but that's what they did. Don't you care about us? Don't you care about what I'm going through? Don't you care? And what you're describing is a level that transcends that, where you're like, I know because you care, you're in control. So I trust you. I believe you care. It's not easy, man.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
To this day, still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when Isabel passed, Niall was at this point 8. He had just turned 8, hadn't he?
No, he was going to turn 8.
Oh, okay. I remember it was around his birthday. Yeah.
Yeah. She passed 2 days before his birthday.
Oh, yeah. So now you have an 8-year-old little boy, raising him by yourself.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then your bonus kids also now you're alone with, right?
Yeah.
What was that time? What would you say to a guy who just is in that same boat? My wife's sick. My wife is about to pass. My wife did pass, or my husband passed. What would you say to that person? Because I imagine this is probably going to be sent to people in that boat.
Yeah. To me, I mean, I kind of held on a lot to in the book of Daniel, chapter 3, I think it's verse 17, 18, where they bring the 3 Hebrew kids. Because I've heard pastors preach this, and but I picked up on it way back then just because, man, these guys are in front of Nebuchadnezzar, and he has the ability to just kill them, and they tell him that.
Yeah.
We realize that you can destroy us if you want. But even if you do, or they say, but we think our God can save us. But even if he don't, we're still not going to bow.
Powerful moment there,
Yeah. And I think that's what I try to live my life like. Like, even if you don't, or even because you didn't, I'm still not going to turn back to where I was before, or that some other life. And that's kind of what I hung on to.
This is who I am. This is what I am.
And now, like, just because God's so good, and maybe back then I couldn't have understood, like you said, because you're so close to it. But I think now, like after I've listened to a few sermons and read the Bible for myself and just seen how things play out. Like I kind of understand, like, even if he doesn't, I still have to hang on to him. Where else am I going to go,
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disciple says, to who else do we go for the words of life?
Exactly.
It's you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll fast forward a little bit. You're raising Niall by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. At some point you get a stomach ache. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was, is like, I remember thinking to myself, gosh, this gas will not go away. I had a bad pain. And it got to the point where I'd be driving in my truck. I'd literally have to pull over somewhere like on the highway and just crawl in the back seat of my truck and just curl up in a ball till it passed.
Eesh.
Yeah. I remember one time I was one of the guys, we had a job in Laramie. And driving back, I said, you're going to have to drive. And I just curled up in a ball and let him drive.
So this was your first indication anything was wrong because you were healthy and everything was fine. And you're just thinking, what did the burrito lady put in the burritos today?
Exactly.
That's what your brain first goes to, is like, man, I ate something. Or,
like I'm having an allergic reaction to something. And what is that I keep eating that's causing that, Because it felt like it was right here, like in my stomach area. So.
How long did you deal with that before you said, I better get checked?
Well, one day I remember it was a Saturday. I woke up and I just had this really bad fever. So I drove to the gas station and I'll get some cold to drink. And, oh man, it just felt bad. I just drove myself to the urgent care. A lady comes in and checks me, and it was a female doctor and I have a prostate exam. They thought there's something wrong with your
okay, hold on. I don't want to. Okay, wait. So you go in because you're feeling sick.
Yeah, bad fever.
And there's a female doctor who are wonderful, by the way. Nothing against female doctors. And she says, I need to examine your prostate.
Yes. Because they thought there was some kind
That'll
of...
get your attention.
Yeah. So she says, well, you've got an infection there. We're going to treat you with some IV antibiotics. So she says, I'm going to be at the other clinic tomorrow morning, which is right across the street from the hospital, that old clinic. She says, come in and I'll give you the IV antibiotics there. Okay. This is a Saturday.
So they give you painkillers or something.
Calm it down. So I go in Sunday and she says, you know what? It's worse than we thought. It spread to your blood. We need to get you to the hospital right now. So I'm like, whoa. So I get some stuff rounded up.
How old is Niall at this point?
Let's see, 2010. He was 13?
13, 14, something like that. Yeah. Okay.
So I get checked into the hospital. They're giving me all this medicine to kill it. And they said, you're probably going to have to be here about a week so we can squash it. So, when you're in the hospital, doctors come in and make their rounds. One guy that comes in one day and he starts, does this hurt, this hurt? No. He touched right there. I about jumped out of the bed. He was like, oh, there's something there. So I can't remember what they thought it could have been other than that, the kidney. So they sent me down for a CAT scan. He's down there looking, oh, you got something right there on your kidney. So they're thinking the infection, because his urinary tract was on my kidney. That's what it was. They saw two things. So I said, we're going to give you this really strong antibiotic for 5 weeks, and we'll have you come back in for another CAT scan.
Okay.
So I took it, started losing hair.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
So funny.
It's a good look, I think.
Yeah. Some guys. So I get in and one of the things is gone. The other one was still there. And he says, well, we're going to have to biopsy that. And I'm like, whoa. Biopsy.
I know that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, you talking cancer? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, gosh. And it like angered me. It scared me. Don't tell me that, So I went in and saw a specialist. And he's like, he did those kind of surgeries. And he says, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. He says, it's really tough to biopsy that. He says, we'd probably be better off just opening you up a little bit, taking a sample out of it and checking it that way. He says, or we'll just take it out. I said, well, take it out.
Open you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm just going to open you up a little bit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they just went ahead and removed it.
Well, he went in with I think it was called the Da Vinci machine.
Okay.
Took it off, or took the tumor off.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking, this is on a Tuesday. Friday, I think I'm going home. Comes in on Friday. He says, no, we'd send it to the pathologist. He goes, that's an aggressive one.
Oh,
We're
no.
going to have to take your whole kidney out. Okay. So I went back into surgery that day. They cut me open. I went home the week after and thought everything was fine. Or it was.
Mm-hmm. You're like,
Actually,
okay, we got it.
Yeah. No follow-up drugs, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Hmm.
And that's where I was at that point, 2010.
And then what up?
2018, I started getting that pain again.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Like I just, you just know.
Yeah, you
like,
just knew, yeah.
So I went in and sure enough, the guy says, you got a mass the size of an orange in your side. He goes, you can't feel that? He puts my hand on it. And I'm like, well, I do now.
Hmm.
I could actually feel like that,
I mean, the average guy doesn't
Exactly.
examine himself, like that very often. Yeah.
Just felt the pain. And so then they scheduled a surgeon again.
Huh.
They had to take probably about, I think they said 13 inches of my large intestine out with it. It was starting to attach itself to that. Oh. So they took that out. And then they sent me down to Denver for some experimental drug. Because with the CAT scan, they could see a bunch of other spots.
Hmm.
Like, we just can't cut all that out. So they thought, well, we'll just treat it with a chemotherapy drug. So I did that drug for 9 months. And finally, they're like, we got to stop that. It's not doing anything. It's growing.
Hmm. So
they put me on radiation for 25 rounds. I had to go every day for 5 weeks, And, the doctor told me, he says, you're probably going to have stomach issues because where we're shooting it, there's one called it's in the peritoneal area, just outside your stomach. He says, because we blast you with goes right through that. It's probably going to affect your stomach. And it did. I felt sick,
Hmm.
So I did that and same thing. It grew. Didn't do anything to it. Put me on another drug that shrunk it. But in a period of 2 months, my kidney function, the one kidney that I did have, went from like mid-40s to 50% function to 10%. That lady,
so you're at 10% of 50%, really, because it's half. I mean, one kidney.
10% of one, yeah.
Yeah.
So then she says, we're gonna kill you with that drug. We're gonna stop. So then I flew out to Oklahoma, to Tulsa, to the cancer treatment centers. Mm-hmm. And they put me on a drug, a fairly new drug called Keytruda. And they said, well, try this for a little bit. And then, it just got to be a lot. And then things didn't work out with the insurance. But then, because I was having to fly out there every 3 weeks, that was just a lot. So I went back to Anschutz in Denver, to the oncologist that I had. And I told her, I don't want to see that guy in Greeley because first thing he tells me, let's get your stuff in order. I'm like, don't tell me that.
The guy in Greeley said, get your affairs in order?
Right. Dr. Kimmy. I just thought, who are you, Dr. Death? No, man.
Dr. Kim.
If you're listening.
I'm not trying to get sued here, Dr. Kim. We're just telling his story.
Yes.
So he told you, hey, you should probably get your affairs in order.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing isn't working or what we're...
Yeah, this is serious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to...
Talk for a second about that. So someone tells you that. What'd you think? Did you get mad? Did you get...
Yeah, I got mad. Because inside of me, I'm thinking, dude, I guarantee I work more hours than you do. Mm. Even if I don't,
Yeah.
Like, no, don't tell me that, man. I'm not ready for that.
Mm.
So I went and talked to the oncologist that I had in Denver. And she said, no, just come back here. So they put me back on the same drug that I'd been on. And I was on that for, a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally they stopped it. She's giving me what she calls a treatment holiday. A holiday from
from being sick.
Yeah. So, they know that there's still a spot right there. But she said it's not growing. And as far as we can see, it's not spreading because I've had 3 CAT scans in. It's still the same.
And they
small
can't go
spot.
in and cut that one out, though.
Well, I'm sure they could, but I think they just don't want to keep cutting on me. And if the drug will treat it that way, they'd rather
Gotcha.
that,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's not true that they just want to do surgery
Right.
to pay for their fancy vacations. So that's where you're at right now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
So you're going to continue that treatment to keep that thing at bay.
If they want to put me back on it, that's
Okay.
probably what they'll want to do.
All right.
Same thing, because that's what's worked.
So talk now, Tony, about before we go there, let's talk a little bit about your business. What do you do? How'd you end up? I know you're a partner in your company. How did all that come about?
Yeah, when I was, I left that company that I'd been working for 10 years. I went to work for Concrete Works out of Brighton. Guy was really good with me, and I was doing a contract with the city of Boulder. And the guy, I got to be really good friends with the inspector. I'd known him a while. He kept, he'd purposely hand me the pay apps to give to my boss. He's like, "Look at all the money you're making, this guy. You do this for yourself." So finally, one day, one other guy decided, let's take the plunge, and we went out on our own. And
That's your partner now?
no, my business partner that I had then. I mean, we got along well. We just had different ideas. So we parted after about 3-4 months, and I was just by myself for a while. And I was doing work here and there with different cities, small stuff,
Mm-hmm. Just trying to get your feet in the game and get something going.
Get like equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met the partner that I have now, and he was small, but he had been in business 2 years longer than I had. So he had more stuff than I had. And I had like 5 guys. He had 7 guys. So he kept telling me, "Why'd you come to work?" I'm like, "I can come to work for anybody. If I do, I'll go back where I was,
Mm-hmm. Oh, he wanted to just hire you.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, "Why don't you just sell me part of yours? Let me get in that way." So we worked out a deal, and that's how that happened. And he's a majority owner, but I have a pretty good stake in it,
Northstar Concrete.
Right, Northstar Concrete.
And you guys specialize in?
Curb and gutter, sidewalks, and concrete paving.
When you have to fire somebody, what do you tell them? Every business owner has their own little.
Yeah, it depends. That's really not that tough, honestly, because I've had to fire a few guys.
Have you ever had to fire a friend?
One kid, yeah.
And one guy's on the bubble right now. If you're listening,
it's not that tough. All you got to do is think about what got you to that point right before you're going to do it, and it'll kind of stir up those feelings. This guy needs to go.
So you just kind of hype yourself up.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were going to say that.
Put your game face on. That's how I do it.
And
I think about
Yeah.
What it took to get me to that point.
Yeah.
And once you're at that point again, you're like, oh man.
And what pushes them to that point? You're not showing up. You're not doing good work. You're fighting with the other guys. You're falling asleep in the restroom.
Yeah.
What's the best excuse you've ever heard for someone not showing up to work? Or what's the most common?
It's always something like with a family member that's sick.
My kid, my wife.
Yeah. One guy's mom's died in Mexico about 5 times, you know. I got to go home and bury my mom. Okay.
He's burying her one piece at a time.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's hard to find good workers. So you have to put up with a certain amount of that, I guess.
Nowadays you put up with a lot. Yeah.
So we have a lot of young leaders that listen to this. So they're probably going to be encouraged, business guys, to know they're not the only ones having to.
Yeah. It's everybody. Like, because I deal with a lot of other different contractors and we're all in the same boat. Can't find help.
What happened? Where did everybody go?
I don't know.
I don't get it. Like a couple of stimulus payments, those aren't still lasting people.
Exactly.
I mean, 2 years, you know what I mean? Now here we are in 2022, December, and nobody can find workers. Are they all driving Uber? Like, where did everybody go? I don't get it. I don't know. What do you think happened? Any ideas?
No.
So then now navigating your business and health stuff, how is that? How do you do that? I mean, how do you look at it?
It's tough because, I have to, because of the kidney failure, I have to be on dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
So I go 3 days a week. And I told him, schedule me as late as possible. So I put in almost a full day. Like I'll work till 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to get home, get in the shower, and get over there to the clinic. That part's tough.
And you're there how long?
I'm there from probably like 4:30 to 9:30.
Jeez.
Because they get you there, and then they got to get you on, and at the end they got to get you off.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes a while. And because of the kidney function that I do have, I have to spend, I think I'm in there for 4 hours and 15 minutes on the, like actually getting dialyzed. Not counting the time that they get you hooked up and then disconnect you. So it's a while.
Do you have a port or?
I have a, what's called a fistula in my right arm.
Okay. And that's they can.
Yeah, they connect a vein and an artery together.
Okay.
And then they stick a balloon in there and they blow it up so they can access it easy. So they stick one needle in where the, what would that be? The vein, I think, trying to return the blood back to the heart. They grab it there, clean it, and they put it back into the artery. I think that.
So it's all happening right here on your arm.
Right.
And all the blood from your body eventually makes its way through that over the course of 4 hours.
Yeah. Right.
Do you feel better after it's done?
Yeah. Like some people say they feel real wiped out. Because I've had it done early in the morning. And I went to work and worked all day. Like, it's a big deal, you know? It's not that bad.
Where have you seen God in all of it?
Like, I mean, just the fact that I'm still alive after living through all that. Mm-hmm. He's just faithful. I don't know why he's chosen that road for me, but I'm okay with his choice because, I mean, I realize now that no matter what I think, he knows better.
Right, yeah. So there's, again, man, it's such a powerful way of thinking because that also, I don't know, if it addresses guilt. Why me? Why not them? Why, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because that battles all that too. Like, yeah.
People who have had maybe even less than you are not with us anymore, right? Like you think it happens so fast. Yeah. And when I was in Puerto Rico, I was, in the hospital, and I remember coming home, and the doctor, they were going to do surgery on me to fix me, and the doctor says, "We don't need to do that. The abscess that you had in your abdomen has disappeared. It's gone." And I was happy. I was overwhelmed. I was thankful. I also felt very guilty because I was talking to a guy in the hospital in Puerto Rico that was in my same boat. And I thought, that guy's still there. He's still there going through this. Why did God do this for me? And so I'm sure you've had some of that. How do you navigate that in your own? Do you not think about it too much? Do you?
Well, I think the same rule applies. Like, God's still the one who's in control. He's sovereign, and I don't know why. It's not up to me to know why. Like, he's God. Like, how am I going to understand God's mind with my human mind?
Yeah.
I've been to the infusion center where they administer the chemo drugs, and I'm sitting there, and here's this couple old guys right there, and I'm like, man, these poor guys are beat up, And I just, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. I'm thankful. That's it. Yeah.
I really am. Yeah.
What about, so let me shift gears a little bit. What are you successful? And what does that word mean to you? What did it mean to you when you were 20? Success. You wanted to be successful. We all want to be successful.
Yeah, I think when you're 20, it means you're going to make a lot of money and have a good life.
Yeah.
That way.
Big house.
Right.
Yeah. What is that? What did it mean to you? How has that word evolved? What does success look like for you now?
Well, it doesn't really involve monetary success. It's just like, I'm happy that my kids, I think they all understand the gospel. That's critical because it took me a long time.
Yeah.
And actually my youngest son, he's the one who really like just pointed that out to me. Like, this is like, I told you we watched that documentary, and he's like, Dad, you got to see this because this like, and honestly, it's like, I knew a lot of that stuff, but that was the first time somebody just crystallized it. This is what it is, and like
I've been meaning to watch that.
It's so simple, but it's so profound.
What's it called?
American Gospel.
American Gospel. I'll put that in the show notes, so if anybody wants to watch it, they can click on it. What did that do to, in a nutshell? What do you believe now versus what you believed before?
Well, now I believe like success is, my kids, they understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us are perfect. We don't all live it the same way. But I'm a lot older than them.
Right.
And hopefully a little wiser because I am older. And I think success is like, I could see my kids passing that on to their kids. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's the inheritance that you want to leave your kids.
Right.
Not the money in the bank or the business assets. None of that. It's that right there.
I mean, if you study people who inherit money, it's generally a curse. Sometimes it's a blessing, but generally, often, I should say, it ends up being a curse.
Yeah.
Too much money that you haven't, if you've never earned it, you've never known what it's like to work for it.
Yeah.
You've never made $5 an hour slugging concrete. You might not appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
So are you successful?
In that respect, yes.
That's good. Now, what do you understand about the gospel now? In other words, what do you believe the gospel is now compared to what you believed maybe 10 years ago? Or
like my whole life, I grew up thinking I got to do this, and this, and stop doing this, and And then I thought,
I don't drink, cuss, or chew, or chase girls that do. Right, all that. Yeah. I don't do the bad stuff. I just Or God is gonna blast me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like somehow, if I do that, God's gonna punish me for that. Like somehow I'm gonna pay for my own sin. Are you kidding me? That never happens. Like some things just happen because, hey, dummy, don't play with fire, you'll get burned.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just the law of reaping and sowing. It's not God. Like,
right. Yeah.
He just doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, He doesn't work the other way where you do good, and He loves you more somehow.
You're right. Yeah.
He doesn't love you
His
anymore.
love is not dependent on what we do.
Right.
Right. Yeah. He cannot love us anymore.
Yeah. And like I think I'm to the point now where I realize I need that message like to penetrate my head every day. I've even, I read through a passage in, I want to say it's in 1 Corinthians, probably about chapter 15, where Paul's saying, he's talking to them. He's talking to a church. So he's talking to a guy like me.
Right. Yeah. He's talking to us.
Says, yeah. He says the gospel that you believed back then, talking about past, gospel that you're clinging to today, the present, and the gospel that'll take you through to the end, the future. Saying that just means to me that you need that every day. Like some people think in that video, you'll hear that guy says, some people think you graduate from the gospel. You never do.
Right.
The gospel is for Christians. Like we need that every day. Like me, I know that if I don't, if it's not a real active part of my life, I'll start to creep back into that old way of thinking where, I got to do this. Gosh, I got to stop, that whole thing. And that's not it at all. It's not like once you realize how good God is, because Jesus is the one that said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Like back then I think, how do you do that? And now I realize
the thing is, you could look at that on the surface, not really understanding what he was saying. And Jesus says, if you love me, you're going to be a good person. You're going to be good. Well, none of us can be good.
Right.
We prove that in the Old Testament law. The law existed partly just to show that we couldn't do it. Like
Paul says that's what it was for, to show you your sin. Yeah.
Just to prove to us. Yeah. Because if the gospel, this is my belief, if the gospel came first, we would have said, well, you never gave us a chance. You never gave us a chance to prove that we could do this on our own.
Yeah.
So God's like, okay, go ahead. And we were terrible, and we are terrible. Like me trying to maintain God's standard myself is impossible. It's so
Yeah, it's in the Old Testament too. Just the Passover. That's the gospel.
Yeah.
After, because the guy says in the video too, he says, before God gave any law, he provided a way out. That's how he is. Before he provides a way out, he provides this is the path to salvation. Now, listen to obey this, and then you'll start to obey the law. Just follow this way first. Just realize how good God is and how much he loves you. And you'll start to fall in love with him. And that's when that verse will hit you. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Because you do start to keep his commandments out of your love for him. It's not the other way around. You keep his commandments, then he loves you. That's not how it works.
Right, yeah. It's like saying, I'm going to be faithful to my wife, but I've never met her and I don't love her. Well, I'm not faithful to my wife because she's my wife. I'm faithful to her because I love her, because I met her, because we've fallen in love over almost 3 years now. So I don't cheat on her, not because I don't want to get caught but because I don't want to hurt her. And that's same thing. It's not that I obey God's commands because I'm afraid he's going to zap me. I obey his commands because I love him, because I know it would break his heart, and because he loves me. But American Gospel, I need to watch that.
The Crystal is pretty good.
I've been busy the last 2 years you've been telling me about that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Any last thoughts? What would you say, Tony? What would you say to the guy who's in your former shoes? He's standing in his living room and they've just given this news to his wife or her, this lady's husband, or the doctor saying, hey, this is what we thought it was. It's cancer. Mm-hmm. And that's a scary word. First time you hear it, it's terrifying. What would you say to that guy, being now where you're at and having come, and none of us are out of the woods, man, but you've come a long way. So what would you say to that guy?
I think I'd tell him that, even that could take your wife's life. And maybe it will. But you still have to hold on to God and just realize that even if that happens, and that's what he chooses, you can't let go. Just like those Hebrew kids, those guys, that little simple story is so profound. That's how you should live your life, no matter what. Not even with cancer. Let's say you lost your business, or the economy just took a downward turn, and you lost everything. Even if that happens, you still have to hold on to his hand, just like they did.
I'm not just going to serve God when my business is booming, even if it doesn't, even if I have nothing,
even if it fails completely, even if your wife does pass away, you still have to hold on to him. Where else are you going to go? Really, where are you going to go?
Yeah. What are you going to do? Yeah. I think it's so easy. It's so easy to get mad at him. Right? God's an easy target, and he doesn't necessarily defend himself. So it's easy to turn against him, right? What would you say to that? Because there's going to be people that listen to this that are angry at God right now.
I don't think that, because I've been there too. And you just can't, you have to realize he's God. And I think it's Paul that says, who are we, the pot, to tell the potter, why'd you make me like this? Or why'd you do this? Yeah. He even says, he goes, don't do that. That's a pearl of wisdom right there. Don't question God.
Right.
What if he explained it all to you? Could your brain really handle that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Have you read The Shack? No. Or have you seen the movie The Shack? It's got blasted when it came out because it's basically about the story of a guy. It's a fictional story. This guy wrote about a father whose daughter is kidnapped and murdered, and she's 6 years old. So, the most horrific thing that could possibly happen to a parent happens to this guy. So he's angry at God. He's bitter. He's, and understandably. Well, then he gets this invitation to meet God at this shack, at this cabin. And he goes. And some of the conversations they have are profound. The way this guy wrote this book, at one point, the guy says, the guy's like, you need to send the bad people. You need to deal with them. You need to send them to hell. And God says, okay, of your 3 kids, which one should we send to hell? You got to pick one, and he puts the guy in the seat of judge, and you realize just a tiny bit how complex this whole picture is, and how, it's. I enjoyed it. You should watch it. You do that, and I'll do the American Gospel.
Yeah, swap videos.
All right, man. Any last words? Any last thoughts you want to share? Anything that?
I mean, just if that happens to you, you just can't let go of God. Like, where else are you going to go?
Yeah, where else are we going to go?
And no matter what, He's in control. Even if, at some point, just imagine when they came for Paul, he knew it was time, but he still didn't let go. Walk the walk.
Walk the green mile. Paul did, yeah. Paul ended up he was decapitated in Rome. That's what history tells us, to the very end.
When remember the last days of Bell's alive, the last hours of her life.
Mm-hmm.
I went in and I read that passage of her in 2 Timothy. I'm fighting a good fight.
I have fought the good fight. I have kept the faith.
I can say that,
Yeah. That is the litmus test, man. Can we all say that at the end of our lives?
Yeah.
My goal is to say I did everything you asked me to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We're just so blessed to just be, like, He's accepted us to be part of the plan. And it's not like you said, it's nothing we've done, nothing we'll ever do, no matter how many great things we do.
Right.
We don't deserve any of the credit. That's all it is.
That's good. Cool, man. Well, thank you very much. On that note, we will wrap it up. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks for the chance.
And maybe we'll do it again and we'll talk about the Broncos and depression.
That's all.
Right now, the Broncos are not doing good. So thanks for coming on, man. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.